Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see all of you wherever you might be tuning in from. Let's just begin by we've arrived. We have just rolled out of the 8 days of Hanukkah into almost feels like a ninth day of the holiday, but Hanukkah's done. Shabbat has begun. And I know for a lot of us, this has been a packed week, whether it's been packed with festivities or work or school, errands, tasks, or all of the above. Let's just take a moment to breathe because you've arrived in this space. So take a deep breath in. Let's hold it for a second. Let it out slowly. Another deep breath in. Hold it for a second. Let out slowly. You've arrived in this space, and whatever you're bringing into Shabbat is exactly what you need to celebrate this moment, to rest, to reconnect, to be re-inspired the next 25, 26 hours so we can re-enter the rest of the week renewed, reinvigorated, refreshed. Let's welcome in Shabbat with some song. This is your let's say 30-second warning to go grab yourself some candles if you want to light candles with us. But why don't we dive into Shalom Aleichem to welcome in that energy of Shabbat. If you know the words, amazing. If you don't know the words, that's also great. You can always hum along or simply just return to your breathing as well. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We welcome in the angels of Shabbat. We welcome in whatever it is that we need out of these next few hours that we have. Just taking a bit of disconnection from the rest of the week and all that might exist outside of this space, even if it's just for these next 30 minutes or so together, to put the phone aside, to put whatever might be outside of your door, all of the concerns, the worries of the world. Of course, we're told by our tradition to have a heart of many rooms, that we should have a heart big enough to hold compassion for those who are suffering right now, to hold empathy for those whom we might struggle to understand, to desire to understand, to hold enough space for concern for the peoples close to us, far away from us, who are holding on to pain and tragedy and loss right now. And also in that heart of many rooms is also a room for compassion for ourselves and a room for gratitude for whatever blessings, big or small, we might have, and a room for taking a deep breath and shutting out for just a moment, a room for reconnecting to ourselves, to those we love, room for song, room for learning, room for joy. That's what it means to have a heart of many rooms. Yes, all those things, all those difficult things are still very real, and they're still there. And just for a moment, maybe just shut the door on those rooms. They're still there. They're still there. We're not pretending they don't exist. We're just gonna shut the door for a moment. Maybe spend more time within the rooms of our heart that are about joy in this moment, about rest, about reconnection, about gratitude, about presence. And maybe some of these rooms are very small. Maybe they're a little dusty. Maybe you're opening the door to that room and you're like, oh God, I haven't been here for a while, which is okay. That's exactly what this moment is for, is to actually think about, okay, there's parts of our being, there's parts of what it means for us to exist as humans in the world that maybe we're not as practiced at. And that's what these tools of Shabbat, right? Even Shabbat itself is amazing spiritual technology developed by the rabbis. It is a tool to get us to actually crack the door open a little bit and be like, huh, like I haven't looked into that room for a while. This is the one that's about like taking a break, right? When was the last time I gave myself a break? Or maybe opening the door to another and be like, oh yeah, like I've been so worried about everything this week that I haven't spent much time in a space of gratitude, thinking about what I do have, right? I've been so consumed with everything I need to get done or what I don't have or what's on my to-do list that I actually haven't taken time to look around me and say, what do I have in this moment? Right? This is that space with song, with learning, with rest to re-enter some of those rooms within our heart of many rooms that we might not spend so much time in during the rest of the work week. Of course, this week is in particular very interesting because it's not just any normal work week that I've come out of. It was the week of Hanukkah, which is a time of reminding ourselves of our ability to bring light into the world and increasing that light over the 8 days. Last night, when we lit the Hanukkah, it was fully ablaze, right? All 8 candles of Hanukkah, plus the shamash, the helper candle, fully lit. I always say it's the most Instagrammable moment in the Jewish calendar. And now our job is to take that light, right, the physical symbol of that light, to carry it within us and to sustain that over this month ahead. And we'll talk about that a little bit actually in just a few minutes. We're going to do a fun dive into Jewish astrology after a few more songs of welcoming Shabbat in. So stay tuned. There'll be some interesting stuff. But of course, Shabbat also has its own particular kind of light as well. So we're going to take a moment. We're going to light our Shabbat candles. So if you're ready, if you have your candles, you can light them with me. We'll bring up the blessings. Light our candles. We wave the light in toward us. Cover our eyes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, folks. Let's keep going with some more songs. Ana bechoach gedulat yemincha Tatir tzerura kabel rinatamcha sagvenu tarenu nora Ana bechoach gedulat yemincha Tatir tzerura kabel rinatamcha Sagvenu tarenu nora Ana bechoach gedulat yamincha Tatir tzerura Kabel rinat amecha Sagvenu tarenu nora Ana bechoach gedulat yamincha Tatir tzerura Kabel rinat amecha Sagvenu tarenu nora Ay 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 We continue with Lecha Dodi, welcoming in Shabbat, whatever it is that we need in this moment that'll help us uncover a new room within our heart of many rooms. Whatever that energy is, that space is that you need, whatever key it is that you need to unlock a new door to rest, to joy, to gratitude, to inspiration, to creativity, to optimism, whatever room feels a little cut off right now. might open a window or turn toward an open door. Sometimes these symbolic gestures, I think, actually have really powerful internal meaning. It actually shifts something. There's something to be said about actually moving ourselves in ways that helps us realign something inside ourselves. There's something to be said. It's like, it's like the handshake, the hug, standing to honor somebody. All these are ways that actually shift ourselves internally. So identify that window or that door that you can open physically, to think about what is the door that you're trying to open internally to unlock something new within you this Shabbat. Lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela Shamor וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לא תבושי ולא תקלמי מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי בך יהסו אני עמי ונבנתה יראתי לה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה והיו למשיסה שוסייך ורחקו כל מבלייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך כמשוש חתן על כלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה ימים ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תעריצי על ידיש בן פצי ונשמחה ונגילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. To rise as you're able, we face toward that open door, that open window. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמונה עם סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה Pene Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela. Shabbat Shalom, folks. We're going to take a moment now as we go into this next prayer to think about anybody in need of healing. It could be of healing of mind or of body or of spirit. It could be a healing of community, a healing of home. We think of those close to us and far away, people we know well, people we don't know at all. We hold them in our hearts. We pray that they might be held under a sukkah shalom, a sukkah of peace, a shelter of peace. Continue with Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu l'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu l'chaim Ufros aleinu Sukkot shalomecha Ufros aleinu Sukkot shalomecha Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu l'chaim. Some blessings of refuah shlema, complete recovery, blessings of peace, blessings of liberation, blessings of community and comfort to all those we've thought of tonight. So Shabbat Shalom, folks. Hello from me. Miso's joined us. So I just thought, it's been a couple weeks. It's been Hanukkah. There's been a lot on our plates. I'm like, what am I gonna talk about tonight? And Hanukkah ends with a transition between months. We actually just left the month of Kislev and we enter the month of Tevet. This happens within the holiday of Hanukkah itself. And one of the miraculous things that occurs because of this alignment of the calendar is that the darkest night of the year always falls during the 7th or 8th night of Hanukkah. And what do I mean by the darkest night of the year? Because Jewish months begin with the new moon, the new moon closest to the winter solstice. This is the new moon that is on the longest night of the year that falls where a new moon happens. Does that make sense? Yes. When a new moon falls close to the winter solstice, so it's the longest, darkest night, right, that we get in the calendar. It's not the longest night, but it's the darkest night because it's the new moon closest to the winter solstice. And this is actually when we kindle the most light. So because we're on a lunar calendar, we actually have an interesting alignment also with the astrological calendar as well. And you might be thinking, okay, wait, hold on. Astrology in Judaism, is that actually a thing? Yes, it is a thing. If anybody's ever traveled around Europe or the Near East, you might have actually seen some ancient synagogues with these beautiful mosaics in the floor or on the walls that depict different signs of the zodiac. And you're like, wait a second, what does this have to do with, is this just like borrowing from our neighbors? Is this just like, oh, well, I guess the Greeks are doing it, the Romans are doing it, we might as well do it too? It's actually a little bit more than that. While it exists within ancient Judaism, we see a debate among the rabbis around the validity of astrology. Kabbalah, later Jewish mysticism that emerges during the Jewish Middle Ages, deepens the association, in particular between the Jewish months in our calendrical cycle and the cycle of the zodiac. But let's go back first to the debate the rabbis have. So we're talking about the rabbis of the classical period into the Talmudic period, so early centuries BCE through, right, probably about 200, 300, 400 CE. Talk about, okay, what's up with astrology? Can we actually derive what they call wisdom from the stars, Chochmat HaMazalot? You're like, wait, mazalot? That sounds like mazal tov. It is actually, right? The word for constellation is similar to the word for luck, mazalot, constellation. So can we actually derive chokhmah, wisdom, from the mazalot, chokhmah, mazalot? And the rabbis tend to fall into kind of three camps. There's the absolutely, like this is actually deep wisdom. And then there's the absolutely not. This is complete farce, right? We should have nothing to do with it. And then there's an interesting middle camp, which is like, there is something to be said about the wisdom of the stars, but we should be really cautious about it and stay away from it. It's one of those things where people ask, like, do Jews believe in ghosts? Do Jews believe in divination? Do Jews believe in, and you're like, well, the Torah forbids it, right? We're not supposed to. If you look in the Torah, it says you're not supposed to consult ghosts. You're not supposed to consult witches. You're not supposed to, consult magical objects, which means like if there's like a warning against it, right? It actually means that there might have been some belief that this could have been a valid form of gaining wisdom about the world, and it's interesting to think that maybe some of the early rabbis, right, or early thinkers, I mean, Torah is pre-rabbinic, right, are actually like, no, this is too dangerous, right? There's something there, right? But maybe we just shouldn't mess with this. There might be too much sacred or secret wisdom that might be unlocked by engaging in these kind of esoteric modes of knowledge and knowing and understanding the world. So fast forward to the post-Talmudic period, we're talking about the Gaonic periods. This is the kind of early Jewish Middle Ages, about 800, 900, 1000 CE. And essentially it boils down to this, which is there might be some wisdom within the stars. Maybe a person's personality and disposition is influenced by the planets and stars when we're born, but because we also believe in free will, right, that we are not, our lives are not predetermined by the stars. So influenced, but not predetermined. And this tends to be the thread that weaves its way through Judaism for most of our Middle Ages. And remember, the Jewish Middle Ages is actually quite a long period of time. We're really talking like 800 to 1600. It's a big chunk of time. But woven through, right, parts of Judaism, this idea that, okay, well, maybe we can kind of look at the stars when somebody's born and think a little bit about how that might influence their personality. But we believe in our ability to overcome our worst inclinations and to sharpen our best inclinations. And so in a way, astrology becomes a tool for maybe thinking about, okay, what are a person's potential strengths and what are a person's potential growing edges? Of course, astrology falls out of favor within contemporary Judaism, much in the same way that it's fallen out of favor within secular society writ large, because of a general feeling that actually where the planets are, where the stars are, don't have an influence on who a person is or who they're destined to become, or even what our particular strengths or growing edges might be. But then Kabbalah comes in, Jewish mysticism, and says, well, maybe there's something to be said about the association of the Jewish months with astrological signs. Right? And this is where it kind of gets to be a little bit fun. I've always felt that things like astrology, tarot, like different forms of divination, do I actually think they're magical, predicting the world, predicting the future? No, but I think they can actually get us to ask important questions about who are we? What are our strengths and dispositions? What kind of questions might I ask, or how might an astrological reading or a tarot card, for example, or a casting of lots, if you will, how might that get me to ask questions about myself in a way that I wouldn't have asked them before? And so I find the Kabbalistic association between the signs and our months to be really fascinating for that very reason. So we'll kind of begin at the beginning of the Jewish year, and we'll roll through this moment as well, because I think the associations are particularly powerful. So if we start in the month of Elul, right, the month that leads up to the high holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, right, Elul is associated with the sign of Virgo. Virgos apparently are known for being a very organized type of folks. They're the list makers. Beyonce, I believe, is a Virgo, right? Very on top of her stuff, very organized, right? And what is Elul about? Elul is actually about cheshbon hanefesh, right? Taking account of ourselves and our lives. It's about making that list and checking it twice and deciding who is the person who I have been, who is the person who I want to be, right? Which then rolls into the month of Tishrei, right? This is the month of Rosh Hashanah and the month of Yom Kippur. And Tishrei, the Kabbalists associate with the sign of Libra, right? The scales, right? The image is obvious when you think scales, Yom Kippur, Day of Judgment, balance, right? And remember, right, the task of Yom Kippur is not to like excise the parts of ourselves that are fallible, the parts of ourselves that make mistakes, right? It's about actually finding the balance of acknowledging that we're human beings and therefore we are capable of great things and we also make mistakes sometimes, right? The balance of Libra, right? It's not about, right, trying to be a saint because it's impossible. It's also an acknowledgement that like we're not like wicked people either, right? Like all of us have this kind of balancing act that we maintain. Following on the heels of Tishrei is the month of Cheshvan, right? Cheshvan is often called Mar Heshvan, or the bitter month, because it doesn't actually have any holidays. It's the only month in our calendar with no holidays in it. It's also the month associated with Scorpio. Now, I'm not saying that Scorpios are particularly bitter people, but Scorpios are associated with introspection, with kind of the inner psychic life. And I actually think Cheshvan, without its holidays and its expression, like the outward expression of Jewishness, is really about taking a moment, right? This is post Yom Kippur. This is post high holidays, post taking that accounting and balancing of ourselves. And now we turn inward a little bit to think about, okay, who am I? Where do I fit into the world in the year ahead, right? It's that like inner psychic life moment, right? That we're not really connecting so much with each other in community and outward facing, but we're actually inward facing, maybe taking a little bit of time for ourselves. So then we go into the month of Kislev, which is my month. I wore my Sagittarius necklace tonight, right? This is the month of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is interesting. It's the optimistic sign, right? It is the archer, right? It is the sign that is about exploration, about taking risks, making leaps. It is a sign that's associated often with luck as well, right? And Kislev is the month of Hanukkah, right? Which is a holiday about building light. It's a holiday of optimism, but optimism is also one that comes with a sense of taking that leap, right? Both the Maccabean story, right, of a small people who overcomes a great empire, but also the story of the miracle of oil, right, is really one of taking risks because, right, they didn't know that the oil was going to last 8 nights, and yet they still lit the menorah anyway, which some could say falls into the Sagittarian impulsiveness, but others could say also falls into the Sagittarian idea of hopefulness and taking a leap, because if you don't take the leap, nothing changes. But then we build up, right, to the end of Hanukkah, the full Hanukkah, that steady, consistent light, not the shifting light of the first 7 nights, but the full light of the menorah, fully lit, right? The steady, consistent light that then carries us through the darker months. And this is Tevet, the month of Capricorn, the stable sign, right? The sign that is about being in your fullness. It is a sign often associated with abundance. It is a sign often associated with, right, a strong sense of self and being, right? It is that the fully lit Hanukkah that then carries us through to the other side, into the month of Shabbat. And Shvat is a very mystical month. It's when Tu B'Shvat happens, the New Year of the Trees, which is all about recognizing what's occurring under the surface. It might blossom, and that's when we get our Aquarians, right? Which is supposed to be a sign associated with the esoteric and the kind of mysterious and the unknown, right? It's the seed under the surface of the soil waiting to grow, which for those of us, particularly in wintry places like Chicago, Tu B'Shvat, the New Year of the Trees, you're not watching any trees bloom, but you are thinking about the potential that lies there. So I'll pause there because it could go on forever. And I find that this is really fascinating because it's a way of rethinking and re-engaging with our calendar. Again, do I think astrology is going to predict the future? Do I think astrology is going to tell us exactly who we are and who we're meant to be? No, but it could get us to think about where are we in our calendar? What is the theme of these times of the months that we're in? And how I more fully engage with those themes, right? To move from a sense of organization to balance, to introspection, to hopefulness, optimism, and risk, to steadiness and contentment, to mystery and some of that awe that comes with thinking of what might lie behind the surface of the world around us. So even in these months, you can kind of see how the arc of the signs, the arc of the months, the holidays that are in them has a lot of kind of richness there to get us thinking a bit about where we are. So as we transition now, right, from the month of risk to the month of presence, the month of optimism to the month of fullness, from the month of growing and exploration to the month of steadiness and being where we are. I hope that you find blessing in that transition. Happy Rosh Chodesh. We just observed it yesterday. The beginning of the new month of Tevet. I hope it's one of stability, of constancy, and of presence for each and every one of you. We're going to take a moment now as we transition out of our services to think of those who are no longer with us. If you are observing a yard site or you're in a period of mourning, I invite you to take a moment and name aloud the person you're thinking of to bring their presence into this space. And if you're in a period of mourning, or it's your custom to stand for the mourner's Kaddish, I invite you to rise as you're able. Yitgadal Vitkadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma Divra Chirute Ve'amlich Malchute B'chayachon Uvyomechon Uvchaye Zecho Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Uvizman Kari V'imru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Omei Almayam Yitbarach V'ishtabach V'pa'ar V'troman V'naseh V'thadar V'taleh V'thalal Shemei Dekudisha Brichu La'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlam rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. Yehi zichronan livracha, may all of their memories be for a blessing, and may we be a blessing to their memories in turn. I think we'll do one more song and then we'll do Kiddush. Sound good? Awesome. You know, I found a way to actually track this to Matzur. I know we just finished Hanukkah, but I think just one more time, right? Look, folks who celebrate Christmas get Christmas carols since late October, so I think we can extend a little bit. Yai dai yai 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 dai yai 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 dai yai dai yai yai dai yai yai dai yai dai yai dai yai yai dai dai yai dai dai yai dai yai ya da 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 dai dai yai yai da dai yai da 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 yai dai da yai dai yadai, hayadai, yadai, yadai. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, hayadai, yadai, yadai, ve'imeru. Amen. Ve'imeru. Amen. It's time for Kiddush, folks. If you got your wine or grape juice, we lift up our glasses. Vayeh erev vayvoker yom hashishi vayehulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzevam vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vaykadesh oto Ki vo shavat mikol mlachto asher bara Elohim la'asod Savri Chavarai, cheers my friends, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei Pri Hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kiddushanu mitzotav veratzavanu, V'Shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, Zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, Ki hu yom tehila lemikra'e kodesh, Zecher litziat Mitzrayim, Ki vanu v'acharta, Ve'otanu kidashta, Im kol hamim, V'Shabbat kodeshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. Well, that's all I got, folks. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. I'll see some of you in person or online tomorrow for our Shabbat services. If you are joining us in person, remember we're at a new location at CJDS over on California between Addison and Irving Park. All the information's on our website. And if you're tuning in by live stream, same place. So nice to see all of you. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Shabbat Shalom. And see you soon.